All right, Genesis 23, let's call this one understated. Understated, why? Because in the chapter, once again, Abraham is traveling, this time amongst a different group of people, the Hittites. He's amongst the Hittites after having been amongst the Egyptians and the Philistines, coming up on a very difficult time in his life. His wife has just passed, and he's mourning. And after mourning, of course, he's got to move on with the business of getting her buried. And that's why the Hittites become important in the story, because he is going to need to find a place from among the Hittites to bury Sarah. And in doing that, he meets with them and identifies himself in an understated way. He says, I'm a sojourner among you, or a foreigner, possibly in some context. But they correct him and they say, no, actually, my Lord, you are a prince of God among us. It says close to something like that in the ESV. And essentially, what he is doing in being understated is displaying a level of wisdom that God encourages us in the New Testament to remember when he says, be humble, and in due time I will exalt you. In another place, Jesus tells a parable and simply says, look, when you are invited to a feast, take the low seat so that the one who is hosting can invite you up to a seat of more honor. Otherwise, if you take a seat that is above your status, you don't want to go in and be embarrassed when they have to ask you to take a more humble seat. So it is wise to be understated so that those who you are around can not only honor you, but give you comfort in those times, much like in Abraham's life when you really need it. And so Abraham, we're going to see, is a man who walked in a pattern of not only humility, but honor that not just, that didn't simply come from his accomplishments, but just as the Hittites noticed, you are a prince of God among us. That's a pattern we see in his life when going back to his troubles with Abimelech. Abimelech noticed, look, God is blessing you in everything that you do. Once again, it's not simply Abraham being noted as being gifted of his own free will or his own talents, but there was a connection between what he was able to do and what people noticed about God. And once again, going way back to chapter 14, when he's coming back from the battle where he rescued Lot, a very righteous man by the name of Melchizedek notices something different about Abraham as well. And that is the fact that once again, he is a man whose blessings are linked to his relationship to God. And so that goes back to something, or goes forward to something we'll see in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus is saying, let your light so shine amongst men that they see your good deeds and they glorify your Father in heaven. Early on here in Abraham's life, we're seeing the life of a man in whom people around him, whether or not they are servants of God like Melchizedek, or simply people who don't necessarily regard God all that highly, like the Philistine king Abimelech, or now the Hittites, who the word is going to go on to say, don't rank all that highly amongst God, at least later on. But all of these different groups of people are noticing a common theme in Abraham's life, that he is a blessed man, and he is blessed in a way that it goes back to showing glory to God. And so when we are looking at our own lives, the question becomes, when people are able to see us in our high points, are we living lives that basically are displaying the kinds of blessings that anybody can attain with good old hard work and what we used to call in the old school elbow grease? Or is there something that is a level up from what we could really accomplish on our own that is obviously linked to something that would have to be attributed to God? Because those are the kinds of blessings that Jesus has told us will mark the lives of Christians, the kinds of blessings that defy human accomplishment. So my prayer for you is my prayer for me. If we are serious about this God thing, and we begin to make the kinds of changes that display in our lives the blessings that defy human understanding. God's best to you as you go forward in Him.